What's up, guys and gals, and welcome to veve Vibes, where I love talking all things veve NFTs, speculation, and of course the market. So to be quite honest, comics was always one of those things that I always just thought, I could always just get it later, right? They're always going to be on the app. I understand they're important. I should probably invest in them, but I could always just do it later, right? I thought the same thing about Todd. I thought the same thing about a lot of different NFTs, which is especially during like November, early December. I'm like, just get it later, like whatever. They're always going to be around. The price has been kind of settling for a while. But I really think that especially secret rare and ultra rare comics have been doing an absolutely amazing job of retaining their value during this gem squeeze. I do think a lot of them kind of just took that hit really early, like late January, sometimes early February. So they took that initial hit, but they actually maintained their value all the way through, while a lot of other NFTs either just crash immediately and continue to go down at a significant rate, or you have things like the golden moments as well as like the lenticular cards that were able to kind of hold their value for a certain period of time, but even golden moments can only hold their value for a full month. I mean, they were actually going up in price, but now they're just crashing really hard and finally catching up to the gem squeeze. But it seems like secret rare and ultra rare comics have been doing a fantastic job of actually maintaining their value, and that's something I actually wanted to cover today, at least, of course, covering some charts. It's not a veve Vibes video if there's not at least some charts to look at in the meantime. So to be honest, I never bought any ultra rare comics. I never really went out of my way to buy anything probably higher than a rare at any point. Up until just a couple weeks ago. The Ghost Rider, I would say, is the first comic that I heavily invested into. Right when the drop happened, I knew the drop was being basically disrespected. I heard just all the comic book content creators across the board saying, hey, this is a big deal. It's basically a top tier Bronze Age comic. It's a significant character. They could have an MCU appearance. There was like one that was sold basically for over $300,000 or somewhere around there, like last year. That was rated at 9.8. I'm like, okay, this is going to be a big deal. I'm going to buy these. So I ended up buying about 6 ultra rares, 5 of the rares, a bunch of the uncommons, and same thing with the commons. And I've actually made so much profit now that I'm actually considering, and usually these are things I would just completely flip out of and just all right, cool, I got profit, and I'm on to the next thing. I actually might keep 1 or 2 of the ultra rares just in case this thing does moon really hard in the future. Plus, it's really cool that I think I do want to keep it because it's the first I would say comic that I really heavily invested in. I do like Ghost Rider. That's actually one I've been asking for on and off for like the last few months, but regardless, gonna look at some charts here. I think Ghost Rider's a little bit too new to actually have some judgment on, but I do have Amazing Spider-Man number 3 pulled up, which is the first appearance of Doc Ock. So on the right side, it's not showing it. It's not showing the comic just yet on ecomi wiki, but as you can see here, it's actually been doing a pretty good job of holding its value. It took that initial dip in early February, where a lot of things pumped in January and started dipping obviously throughout late January or early February. So the trend has been down, but most other collectibles that I've seen on the app, on the collectible side of things, like even golden moments and some other things, like they're getting way down here. So honestly, I think if this thing was like more like a collectible, it would probably be around the 250 mark, and the listings would probably be a bit higher for the most part. So like something like the first appearance of Dr. Octopus, which is up there. I do think most of the comic tier lists that I've seen probably rated them in like the top 10 or top 15 based on the comics that we have now on the app. Fantastic Four number 5, first appearance of Doctor Doom. And what I'm going to start investing in these secret rare and ultra rare comics. I just have a lot of these just pulled up right now of all the ones I plan on investing in at some point. As much as I would like to invest in a secret rare Fantastic Four number 5, it's a little bit out of my price range, but I still think it's good to pull it up in the meantime. So Fantastic Four number 5, like, look at this chart. It went down in February, and it pretty much just did this. It pretty much just started going up and down. It pretty much stayed within that channel between like 800 and 900-ish, and that's all it did for about a full month until now sort of recently pumped. I do think the crazy low listings, because this thing actually did pump up to 1.8 or 1.9 just the other day, but this was because the listings were so low. I think it actually got down to about like 10 listings, which was actually less than the secret rare. Even now, there's still less listings than the secret rare. We'll go ahead and pull up the secret rare as well, but that's something I'm kind of finding out, is that, and it's something I've heard, is that collectibles are a lot like stocks, while it seems like ultra rare and secret rare comics are much more like bonds. They tend not to move a lot, but when they, during a gem squeeze, I mean, this is something you want to see, right? It's just plateauing. Golden moments were going up. but eventually they can only hold out for so long. But something like secret rare and ultra rare comics, they've actually been staying on their channel pretty well, and in some cases going up, and there's a bit of margin to be had if you are interested. Not so much like obviously flipping for the most part, but there's some buying opportunities here. As you can see, the secret rare is going for 5K at one point, and then shit shot right all the way back up to 6.8 for the most part. So maybe we can look at some comics. I would say these are all the comics I do plan on investing in at some point. So I obviously already have like the Ghost Rider, the first appearance of Dr. Octopus, first appearance of Doctor Doom, first appearance of Green Goblin. The only one that I would say is kind of speculative, which I do like a lot, is just Thor, which is the first appearance of Beta Ray Bill. And if you guys don't know the story of Beta Ray Bill, he's actually a really, really cool character, and in some ways probably more worthy than Thor himself in some ways. So you guys should definitely check out just like his story, go on YouTube, just kind of check out what he's all about. So that's kind of more of like a speculative buy on my end. Plus he just has like crazy low mints. I think this mint run was only about 10,000 total, which is on the very, very low end. So this is actually one I could possibly invest in. Plus I heard he was kind of teased in some of the recent like MCU movies, so he could have maybe not his own series, but he could definitely make more cameos or more appearances. Of course, you got to have Miles Morales on here. Daredevil, I have the Uncanny X-Men, which I believe is the first appearance of Scarlet Witch, as well as like Quicksilver. You know, got to have the Marvel comics on there as well. Fantastic Four #1, Avengers #8, which is the first appearance of Kang, first appearance of Loki, so Journey into Mystery, and then the Amazing Spider-Man #1, first appearance of Deadpool, first appearance of, or this is not the first appearance, but this is the first comic of the Amazing Spider-Man series, which is big. First appearance of Deadpool. So I'm sticking obviously with a lot of these very, very first appearances or very, very significant comics. You know, some people might ask, hey, why aren't you looking at, I'm trying to remember some of these other comics that I've been looking at. Like, hey, why aren't you looking at the first appearance of Carnage or Kingpin or The Vision or Sam Wilson? Like, these are all going to be big. Like, I agree, but I think I don't want to diversify myself too much. I do think these are the ones that are going to do some of the absolute best on the app, but I do want to just kind of keep my eye on them in general. But I'm going to go ahead and pull up another chart. This is actually Thor right here. So this one's actually keeping in its channel again. So so it actually pumped here during January. It went back down to about 680, but at its very lowest, it went down to 500, but it's been keeping in between this like 500 to 700 channel pretty well. Like like most other comics or I'd say collectibles, it would be crashing much, much lower, in my personal opinion. If we look at something like Ultimate Fallout Miles Morales, ultra rare, I'm probably sticking mostly to the ultra rares. I do think there is some validity in kind of investing in ultra rares over secret rares. Like, don't get me wrong, I do think the secret rares have the most room to move, you know, vertically. But I do think percentage wise, you know, let's say Ultimate Fallout went from, you know, 4.3 all the way up to $9,000. It's like, okay, cool, doubled in price. But I do think Ultimate Fallout could do something like, okay, now it goes to $3,000. Is it still cheaper than Secret Rare? Yes, but now it did a 3x while the Ultimate Fallout Secret Rare only did a 2x. So percentage wise, it was actually better to get the Ultra Rare. And some people do like the art of the Ultra Rare over the Secret Rare. It just looks a bit different, right? So looking at the ultra rare, so again, everything late January, it started going down, but this is like an extremely good looking chart, at least in my opinion, like during the heart of a gem squeeze, probably one of the hardest gem squeezes we've ever had on the veve app. And it's actually been retaining its value. Like the listings are going down. This is probably the delisting feature right here, which is why I was at 49 and went all the way down to 35. But yeah, like I'm truly impressed with just the way comics have actually been retaining their value during this gem squeeze. And don't get me wrong, like, you know, when we do have the Q system come out, when we do have MTL come out, we're gonna have a lot of catalysts that are gonna pump the market or dump the market and everything in between. But I do think some of the most secure investments you could probably get into right now is probably ultra rare or secret rare comics. As you can see on the collectible side of things, pretty much nothing is safe from a dip. You know, it doesn't matter if you own a Todd or a Walt or any of the other top tier, you know, secret rare Spider-Man, like those are all just vulnerable to dips too. And comics are no different, but I do think ultra rare comics do react a bit differently for the most part. And like here we have a chart here for ultra rare Deadpool. Maybe we actually find a secret rare here. So here's the secret rare of Deadpool. Curious how this chart plays out. To be honest, I haven't even pulled up most of these charts. I'm just kind of clicking as I'm going through. And yeah, that's a pretty big pump right there. So Secret Rare New Mutants was at 2K probably about 5-6 days ago. That looks like about a week ago. Then it pumped all the way up to 3K. And this is during a gem squeeze, right? Like things should be going down, but people are actually investing in these things. So if we just look at just collectibles in general, I mean, we could sort the list even by the top gainers and you can see a significant change in the listing. So like, let's look at something like Secret Rare Alligator Loki, which I bet you got gem squeezed pretty hard, just like everything else on the app. So again, for 1,600 gems, you can get probably 2 of some of the relatively high tier ultra rare comics. You can maybe get a pretty decent secret rare comic that's kind of more of like in the mid range. But yeah, like look at this chart. It's done nothing but down and to the right. Well, all the comics would probably level off at about, let's say 1,800. It might be pushing all the way up to 2,200 right now if this was considered a comic, let's just say. But this thing is just continuing to dip. Like let's look at, trying to find like another relatively expensive thing, like yeah, like Professor Utonium. And again, I'm not saying I'm only going to invest in ultra rare or secret rare comics, but I'm going to be investing in probably some of the commons of those comics, mostly like Ultimate Fallout and some of the other ones that I do think could have some relatively short-term popularity or do well in the future. So like yeah, like even look at Professor Utonium, which is down and down and down and to the right, but it's like for most of the comics that we've seen that are in the ultra rare secret rare category, they tend to not pull all the way back here. They tend to stop about 50% between their all-time low and their all-time high, and they kind of just plateau. Professor Utonium at one point basically touched his all-time low, and he's still struggling to get back up. So at least in my personal opinion, I'm very, very bullish on ultra rare and secret rare comics. I'm just kind of just mostly looking at the charts right here. We can even take another, see if I can just find like another relatively big name thing here. Like yeah, we'll go ahead and look at the Pride Givenchy like beauty for the most part. Go ahead and pull this up in the meantime. And so, and this thing has had some pretty crazy numbers, right? This thing is pumped all the way up to 15,000, went all the way down to 7,000. So, so I will admit, so sometimes secret rare and ultra rares might not have the highest peaks and just go all the way down, but they definitely seem to be the most steady. So if you're one of those investors that might not be able to stomach having giant gem squeezes, seeing your vault value go down by 40, 50, 60, 70%, and you're afraid you might sell stuff off, or if you're not too bullish on comics in general, maybe you should take a look at some of these ultra rare and secret rare comics. Like some of them are pretty affordable. I will say some of the ultra rares that we were just looking at are anywhere between 600 to 800 gems, sometimes 900 gems, and maybe the next time you buy you know, that Decon NFT, or you buy this or buy that, like maybe take a look at some of the ultra rare comics. And if you guys are kind of confused on what to invest in, I think my next video, just because it is going to be kind of a long-winded video, will be covering, hey, what are some of the tools that I use to actually price out my NFTs, and what do I use as tier lists in order to kind of help me choose which comics that I'm actually going to be investing in personally. So, and that's the other thing too. It's like, if we look at the collectibles for the most part, like they can always make more. They might make more Aston Martins. They could make more Black Panthers. There's going to be more Spider-Mans, more Supermans, more Batmans. Like they're always going to make more of these. But when we're looking at something like comics, for the most part, like they're done making the Ghost Rider Marvel Spotlight #1. Like they're done making that. It's gone forever. Like I just don't see a world where veve would actually do some sort of like weird reprint of these, you know. Fantastic Four #5. There's only 1,000 of these. Like they're done making this cover. Like it doesn't exist anymore. Like they can always make more Doctor Dooms. Yeah, there's a Doctor Doom FA Marvel Mighty right now, but they can always make more Doctor Dooms. But the Doctor Doom FA comic, they're done making these. Like there's no more to be had. There's nowhere to be made. They can, you know, maybe make prints of other stories maybe related to Doctor Doom, but it's not the FA Doctor Doom. So at the end of the day, like I'm very, very bullish on UR Comics, and I've even talked about this for the last like week and a half or so, that I actually might start moving some of my vault value around, some of my portfolio towards comics, because I do think long term these things do hold their value extremely well during a gem squeeze. Kind of just want to pull up Daredevil #1 in the meantime. Yeah, like Daredevil #1. I've seen tons of content creators or tier lists that put Daredevil #1 basically at like the #5 to like 8 spot on the comics that we have on the list right now. And this thing is below 700 gems, like the ultra rare version, and it's a sick looking comic. I kind of wish we could actually see the covers on Ecomi Wiki, but like the covers look amazing. And I do think there's going to be some niche collectors out there that might prefer some of the ultra rare covers versus the secret rare covers, especially since some of the secret rare covers are usually just a panel pull of something inside the comic and just put on the cover. But some people might like some of these veve exclusive art, or some of the more recent artists that make their own kind of variation of the cover art. It might look amazing. And so that's why I would love to talk with some other content creators, mostly comic enthusiasts like Sleeping in Comics, My Collectibles, and there's a few others, Comics and Crypto, and all those guys, and just kind of understand like what are some niches that currently exist in the physical comic book like industry, or like in that kind of like community, and like how would they react to these comics? Because I do think there are some people that might like some of the veve exclusive comics, some of them are covers, some of them might be cover art purists, and all they want to do is invest in the comments and maybe the uncommons because it has that cover art, whatever it is. But overall, at least for me, I do think the ones that have the most verticality, the ones that do have the most room to grow percentage wise, the comments are definitely up there, but I do think ultra rare and secret rare versions of some of the very high tier comics are going to be the most resistant when it comes to these gem squeezes, and I've seen them do extremely well in the meantime. So yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. That's pretty much all I have to say. I'm sure if I come up with some more reasons, I'll put them down in the comments, so please keep an eye out for that as well. But if you guys have any ideas for video topics you guys want me to cover next time, I think my next video will be covering what are the tools or resources I use to kind of help price these comics and kind of like a tier list and all that stuff. I do actually have like 2 or 3 of them that I do want to share with you guys. But for now, yeah, take a look at ultra rare and secret rare comics. I think they're going to treat you guys right. And if you guys have any questions, please ask me or go to some of the other content creators. Like I said, Sleeping in Comics, My Collectibles is pretty knowledgeable about comics and comics and crypto as well. So yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. I hope you guys take care and make sure to double and triple check all of your orders before you post them so you don't misprice them. So take care, and I'll catch you guys on the flip side.